everyone and welcome back to my channel. While I was on vacation and while my computer was broken, the 169th Akutagawa Prize, the Akutagawa Show, happened, and I just wanted to discuss it today with you guys. Basically, this is the prize for the second half of 2023. The Akutagawa Prize, if you don't know already, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, is a bi-yearly literary prize in Japan. It's the most prestigious prize here in Japan, and it's the prize that I follow more than any other prize out there. And so, I mean, you'll probably notice I didn't do the January prize announcement, but it's fine. We're here today. We're here for the 169th Akutagawa Prize announcement, which is again announced. I think it was announced in July of 2023. So let's go in with it. So 5 books were nominated. Now, this might not actually be the most interesting video because when I researched the books online that were nominated, like the blurbs are just not, I really hate blurbs in Japan. I don't think they're very good. They don't give you that much information. They don't really get a sense of like the feeling of the book or anything. It's so just like, it's either exact plot, but like doesn't give you any sense of like the what kind of feeling will be behind the book, or else it gives you like just feeling and no plot, and you're just like, I have no idea what this is talking about. So it's a little hard to present books when they're not presented to you quite properly, but we will do our best. But I will probably most likely just be reading blurbs out to you, which on top of the fact that the blurbs to begin with aren't that great, I also translated them, and I'm not a professional translator, so the translations might feel a little blunt to be honest. But let's get into it, and let's go in with the first book that was nominated. It's called Wa ga te no Taiyo, which means the sun in our hands. It's written by Ishida Kaho, and to just read the blurb out to you. A skilled welder on the construction site, Ito falls into a slump, losing day by day his pride and confidence. But just like professional sports stars, confidence isn't something you can just get back via practice and discipline. So Ito decides to ... That's it. That's it. And I should also add the commentary that I also like looked up people's reviews on these books. But again, I feel like what I've experienced is that Japanese people who review books don't exactly review books the way that us in the West tend to review books. It's a lot more like, they won't, like a lot of times they won't rehash the plot. A lot of times they won't give their feelings. They'll just be like, oh, this is good, I can relate. Oh, I can see how that's possible, etc., etc. It's very minimal commentary on books. Like sometimes they'll make a comment and then their rating is quite high, and you're like, well, I didn't get that feeling from you. Or it's the opposite, the rating is quite low, but they give a high praise, and it's just like, I don't know what to do with this information. But in any case, yeah, that's the first book in our list of nominees today, The Sun in Our Hands, Wa ga te no Taiyo. The next nomination is called ##name ##, written by Kodama Ameko. The story starts with when Yukina, a former junior idol, becomes obsessed with the shonen manga's dream book. She then meets and falls in love with a boy with the same name as the protagonist of the novel. However, upon actually learning about the boy and his past, we follow Yukina as she moves between light and darkness. This one quite surprised me because Akutagawa Show is not a genre. It's not a genre prize. For that, you have the Naoki Prize, which is announced at the same time as the Akutagawa Prize. And that one, anything can be nominated: historical fiction, samurai, like Jidai Shousetsu books, fantasy, sci-fi, alternate, etc., etc. Anything can be nominated for that. But for the Akutagawa Show, it's supposed to be literary. And this feels very almost like the type of plot you would find in a young adult book or a light novel type book. So I was quite surprised with this one. Also, I translated her becoming obsessed with the shonen manga's dream book. I don't quite know what that means. I think I would have to read the actual book to understand what is meant by a dream book. But yeah, I was kind of surprised by that one. It sounds, if it's written in a literary way, I think it could actually be quite interesting, because I think it would avoid sort of like young love kind of tropes that you would find in young adults and things like that. So next book that was nominated is called Electric, which means electric. This is written by Chiba Masaya, and the blurb is as follows. It's 1995 and Utsunomiya is the electric city, and we follow Tatsuji, a second-year high school student who longs for Tokyo, who has an advertising exec father who is working on a passion project involving an amplifier. One day, Tatsuji discovers a gay community on the emerging internet. The shock that follows is electric. Yeah. So you can kind of see like Japanese blurbs is like, don't really tell you much, but we are going to tell you that his father is working on an amplifier. We'll see if that has anything to do with the plot, if we end up reading it, or if it ends up winning the Akutagawa Prize. But it's just, yeah. This one, though, does appeal to me more probably than the other books so far. I do like the idea of maybe having a father-son relationship in a book, which isn't something I've seen. Have I? Or I've read very, have I even read a little bit? I don't know. The last book I read, there was a father-grandfather type relationship, not a father-son relationship. So that could be interesting to have a father-son relationship book. So yeah, the next book is called Hunchback, which means Hunchback, by Ishikawa Saou. So Hunchback is about a woman named Shuka Izawa, and basically she's a woman with a curved spine because she has a congenital, I'm reading the blurb now to definitely make sure I get these words right, a congenital hereditary muscle disease, who uses an electric wheelchair and a ventilator and lives in a group home her wealthy parents left behind, rarely venturing outside. Basically, the book opens up with this crazy sex scene, really orgy, but when you're reading this sex scene, you feel like it sounds very naive, and a lot of like what's going on isn't really realistic. It just feels very naive, and it feels like someone who's never had sex basically imagines sex to be like. And then immediately you read a few pages and it turns out that it is our protagonist who is writing those pages, because basically she is a online blogger for sex communities, but obviously due to her condition she's not able to actually participate. So she's like an undercover investigative journalist for like these sex communities, but she can't actually partake in them, so she just imagines them. So the whole story is about someone in the group home, basically, who discovers that she has this job. It's their relationship. So yeah, that one sounds really interesting. It's especially poignant to this particular Akutagawa Prize because the woman, the author herself, also has scoliosis caused by congenital myopathy, and she has a muscle disorder that results in muscle weakness and breathing problems, and she also uses a ventilator and an electric wheelchair. So she is basically speaking from her own voice. This is an own voices kind of book, and she basically stated in interviews that she wanted to write what she wanted to write, and she wanted someone like her to be the protagonist, basically. So that is Hunchback by Ishikawa Saou. The last nominee is called Soれは誠. Now, Soれは誠could be two translations depending on the subject of the book. It could either be that's the truth, or Makoto could be the main character's name. I don't know, because it wasn't in the blurb, although that would have been very convenient if they had put it in the blurb. But if the character's name is Makoto, then the title of the book would just be that's Makoto. Here's Makoto, basically. So not too sure on the actual title. Soれは誠will depend on the subject of the book. But the author is Norishiro Yuusuke. And the book is about a group of high school students on a school trip to Tokyo who go off course, and then the book follows the emotional conversations and events of that day. So yet another book that sounds very much YA, or it sounds very much, very young coming of age story. It sounds very much like the book that I read that is called The Friends, which actually is available in English translation, and it was actually quite excellent, where that book was about a group of 3 young boys who initially were trying to kind of wreak havoc and end up having a significant relationship with an elderly person in their neighborhood or in their community. So this kind of feels like the same way. Just I'm quite interested in this one because this how young students interact with each other and actually have conversations with one another, I think is quite nice, especially since a lot of media in Japan focuses on high school age students or high school age young people. You'll notice a lot of anime, manga, etc. It's usually high schoolers. It's not really college people, which always makes some of the topics or situationships seem kind of almost uncomfortable, because you'll have what you realize are young teenagers, young high schoolers, and sometimes even middle schoolers, oftentimes middle schoolers having these very adult relationships, adult feelings, and you're just like, that makes me kind of uncomfortable. But the reality of the fact is that a lot of Japanese media is focused on these younger characters. And then at the same time, because a lot of media is focused on these young people, a lot of the conversations are almost very unrealistic, because it's a high schooler or a middle schooler who's now a fantasy hero or a shonen hero, he's a pirate or things like that. So the conversations aren't very realistic. So having a book like this that really would show those emotional conversations that young youth can have, I think could be very, very moving and really, really wonderful. So now the question is, who won the Akutagawa Prize for the 169th Akutagawa Show? The winner is Hunchback. So this is the cover again for Hunchback, because this is the reason that this is the only book that I was able to give an actual proper blurb, because I haven't read it yet in its entirety. I've only read like the first 15 pages because it's actually kind of hard to read. And I haven't really been making that much of an effort to read in Japanese this year. But besides that fact, this was the book I was actually quite happy to read. I like the fact that it's own voices. It definitely gives you a perspective we do not see that often or at all in Japanese media. I liked the idea of this woman sort of becoming a fake undercover investigative journalist, because it's a way for her to live out in the real world since she can't, basically. So far, what I've read from this book is quite filled with a very dark, sarcastic, almost self-belittling humor that is very, very effective. It's very witty in the character self-reflection, and I'm very eager to see how the rest of this book goes. So I'm very happy that this is one, and this was an easy book to pick up, basically. And just in case you're worried, no, this is the only book in Japanese I bought this year, because I'm very, very well attuned to the fact that I've read nothing in Japanese this year, so there's no point in increasing my TBR. But this is a good one. If I'm going to increase my TBR, this is a good one. So yeah, that's the winner of the 169th Akutagawa Prize. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!